Welcome back to Open Mic here on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio here in Albany, New York, talking some New York Jets football and more. And pleased to be joined by Jake Asman, who does great work. He's a friend of the station back when my guys Dan Ball and Mike Giraputo worked here. They're on to bigger and better things. And Mike's a long-suffering Jets fan, so I texted him yesterday doing a little wellness check. And I'm sure a lot of Jets fans were crushed at the result. But hey, look, there's a lot of positives you can take away from it. Eager to break it down with the great Jake Asman. Follow him on Twitter at Jake Asman, hosts the Jake Asman Show on YouTube, and does some great work for 880 ESPN New York and Mad Dog Radio as well. Talking some Jets and more. Jake, thanks so much for hopping on my show here, Open Mic. How are you, my man?
Michael, happy to join you. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Pleasure is all mine. 34-32, the final. And look, let's start with what you saw as some positives, Jake, specifically with this offense. Justin Fields has been dubbed a running back quarterback by a lot of fans, by some other analysts as well. I thought he was more than solid, in fact, really good, and kept the Jets in that game, made a lot of good throws and plays. Let's start there. What did you make, and how would you grade out Justin Fields' performance in Week 1 at home?
I would give him an A. Honestly,
right.
I was blown away. And I as a Jet fan, I'm used to just putrid quarterback performances. So when you get something like that, I mean, it's maybe I'm grading it higher than maybe the average fan. But I really thought he was great. He was in complete control. He did a great job of, when he had to throw, being accurate, on time, delivering the football where it needed to be. He certainly made a bunch of plays with his legs. They had a lot of designed quarterback keepers and RPOs and different things to kind of get him going and loosen up the Steelers defense. But, this is a Steelers defense that has a lot of really good players on it. They were number 2 last year in DVOA. So to score 32 points against that defense, I was really impressed. I mean, it was really encouraging to see how he played, because I just wasn't expecting it. I thought this would be an ugly, low-scoring game. The weather was awful before the game, and it started to clear up during it. But I thought with a wet field and just given the history of what Justin Fields has been and how rusty Aaron Rodgers I thought was going to be, the fact that game was a shootout to me was a huge surprise. And the fact that the Jets actually scored 32 points, I was really blown away. I really was.
Yeah, I was too. I'm sure Jets fans were. It was just a great football game to watch, Jake, overall. I mean, back and forth and very high scoring. But as Aaron Glenn said post-game, there are no moral victories. It'll be on to Buffalo Week 2, which we'll get to. But how about the running game? The Jets, with the injury to Elijah Vera Tucker, which is absolutely crushing. Of course, the week leading up to the season, the star right guard out for the year, unfortunately. And Breece Hall over 100 yards, and being able to use Justin Fields, use his legs as well. Were you surprised at how efficient the Jets' running game was, especially with the recent injury to Vera Tucker?
I thought that for them to have any chance in the game, they were going to have to run the football well. The fact that they came out, though, and looked as good as they did, running the ball almost right away, that to me was really impressive. I thought Joe Tippmann played really well watching it back this morning at the right guard spot. I thought Josh Myers held his own at center. And honestly, the biggest surprise to me is just how well Armand Membu played at right tackle. He went up against TJ Watt a lot, and really, Watt did not wreck this game at all. Membu was excellent. I don't think he allowed a single pressure in all the dropbacks that Justin Fields had. I thought he was good in the run game. I thought Olu Fashanu played really well. So, if you want to be positive, because there's certainly some things to be concerned about and some things to be certainly disappointed with if you're a Jet fan. The offense doing what they did with Fields, we talked about it, the running game, and then specifically the O-line, even without ABT. That was very impressive overall what they were able to do.
It was. Do you think this one stings a little extra, knowing that it was Aaron Rodgers on the winning side, on the flip side with Pittsburgh, especially with everything you said post-game, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I'm someone who was a Rodgers fan, and I wanted him back, so I'm not surprised. I can't begrudge the guy for having a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. I had a feeling he was going to play well. I didn't think he'd throw necessarily 4 touchdowns to be this type of game, but I always knew he still could play. I just thought in week 1 of the season where he didn't play in the preseason, he'd be a little rusty. So I think it stings because it's him a little bit, but honestly, to me as a Jet fan, it just stings because so many times in the Jets' history, right, specifically during this playoff drought since 2010, the defense has played well, and it's the offense that has let them down. So to finally have really good quarterback play, score 32 points, and you still lose the game. It's deflating, especially when some of the things or some of the reasons why you lost the game are so easily preventable, right? They dropped an easy interception late in this game that would have been a pick six if Brandon Stevens held on to it. So Rodgers played well, but that's an opportunity for the Jets to win the game right there. You had the Xavier Gibson fumble on the kickoff return. He shouldn't be on the 53-man roster, let alone returning kicks in that spot. And, of course, it comes back to hurt the Jets. So it was a fun game, obviously highly entertaining. But I think what hurts the most beyond, you lost to Aaron Rodgers, is that this is a game that was very winnable, and no one outside of the diehard Jet fans were expecting them to win, and you had it, and you didn't take advantage of it, and you brought up the Bills next week. That's the big fear, right? This might have been the most winnable game of your first two, and now all of a sudden you're 0-1, and you got to deal with a Bills team that we all watched what they did last night in their comeback over the Ravens. Yeah,
without question, Jake. It's a good breakdown, some good points by you. And I liked yesterday, some things to build on for sure. The connection, going back to the Ohio State days of Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson, right? It's a tough break on the fourth down play. Fields could have run for it. He made a good play, but, Jalen Ramsey just lays a clean hit and laid the boom on Garrett Wilson. But 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown for wide receiver 1. For the Jets, is that a sign of things to come? We see in Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson be a potential lethal combination maybe throughout the regular season here?
You know what? Garrett Wilson has played in such bad situations for most of his Jet career, so I'm not surprised that he's able to go out there and make plays with a guy that he already has that built-in chemistry. Now, I will say this. It's not exactly like we saw a ton of big plays in the preseason. Fields only was out there for 3 drives, and Garrett Wilson, I don't think, had a catch in any of them. So I guess there were some Jet fans maybe unsure on what exactly to expect, but Garrett Wilson has proven to be quarterback proof, right? He's had 3 seasons in the league before this one, and he's gotten over 1,000 yards and had almost 100 catches in each of those years. So he's really good. I'm not concerned about him. I'm more concerned about the other receivers on the depth chart and who could step up. What we saw yesterday with the way Fields can run, the way they ran the ball, and the way they kind of spread it around, there were no drops yesterday. Helps when Allen Lazard, by the way, is inactive in that department. But, you have Wilson, the clear-cut, wide receiver 1, and then I thought Fields and Tanner Angstrom, the play caller, they did a nice job spreading it around, but I think we're going to see a lot of big plays between Fields and Garrett because that's who Garrett is, and obviously Fields has that built-in chemistry with him, and we saw it on display right away yesterday.
Yeah, agreed. It was a good thing and a potential sign of things to come for sure. How would you grade out this defense? You mentioned some things that you want to see the Jets improve. I have a funny guess, Jake, that maybe defensively there's some things that you as a fan of this team, and I'm sure Aaron Glenn is probably going to want to see cleaned up here moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's very strange because I actually thought the defense individually, you go through some of the guys, and a lot of them I thought played really well. Sauce Gardner, I thought, was the only guy in that secondary, had a great game. He completely, nullified DK Metcalf when he had him one-on-one. It was nice to see the Jets finally allow Sauce Gardner to travel with the team's best wide receiver. Jet fans have been screaming for that for years, so it was good to see that. And then I really thought Jermaine Johnson in his first game back from the injury looked good. Will McDonald had 2 sacks and was dominant at times in this game. Quinnen had a big game. You go through it, a lot of guys were making plays. They just had too many coverage breakdowns in the secondary. They had too many guys running free. Brandon Stevens, he alone contributed to so many of the big plays in this game. I thought Michael Carter, who's been really good for them in the nickelback spot, he had a tough game, which you don't expect, but it came back to really hurt them. So individually, a lot of guys played well. It's just a couple third downs. You couldn't get off the field. Bad penalty by Quincy Williams helps keep a Steelers drive alive. It was just the little things here or there that really did the Jets in, and I think that's why so many Jet fans are so frustrated because in a game where so many things seemingly went well, they still lost. And I think that's the struggle you have if you're a fan of this team.
It feels like, Jake, they should have won the game. You were describing all these different scenarios, and they played so well to your point. And you look at the score, it's like, how in the world did the Jets find a way to lose that game? And it's on to the Bills, like we had mentioned, where they're currently a 6.5-point favorite on the road. They win potentially the game of the year last night, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around how they came back and beat the Baltimore Ravens. But it is on to the Bills heading into week 2. Week 1's always tough to evaluate. The Ravens put up 40 points on this Bills defense. I don't know if that's going to carry over into week 2. How do you see this one, week 2, playing out with the Jets back at home against the Bills?
I do think the Jets have a chance in this game, but it's tough to pick them, right? They're 7-point a home underdog for a reason, but they have played the Bills pretty well at MetLife the last couple of years. They've won 2 of the last 3 meetings at MetLife, and the 2 games the Jets won, Zach Wilson was the quarterback in those games. So, they have played Josh Allen well at times. Obviously, for the Jets to win, we're going to need to see them run the hell out of the ball like they were able to do on Sunday, and basically the way the Ravens were able to do with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and company last night for a lot of that game. So I think if the Jets could run the ball, keep Allen off the field, they're going to have to force a couple turnovers. That could be the difference in the game. They could hang with Buffalo, and they could be in this one, but it's tough to pick the Jets to beat the Bills until you actually see it. But once again, recent history has shown you that it's not like the Bills just go in and they just destroy the Jets in that building. The Jets have been able to make it really tough and have won a couple of the last games. And it's early in the year, so it's still kind of, one of those things where teams are trying to figure out what exactly they are, and you might be able to catch a team off guard. So I think it's probably a closer game than many expect, but it's going to be tough for me to pick the Jets at this point.
Yeah, I know. But I tell you what, progress towards building a better culture and a winning culture. I do like everything Aaron Glenn says. The offense looked pretty good. I think there's certainly some things to build on it. Before I let you go, man, I saw on Twitter, this is awesome. You obviously just started New York Game Day with you and the great Mike Tannenbaum. Had him on this station, of course, former Jets general manager, all over ESPN. So it's every Sunday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. That's awesome, Jake. Congrats. That's got to be super cool for you, being able to do a show and do some pregame with the Jets with the great Mike Tannenbaum, huh?
Yeah, it's very funny because growing up, the Mike Tannenbaum Jets teams in the 2000s, those were my teams, and I remember as a kid at times I was pretty critical of Mike T, and then as time has gone on, I realized, holy crap, he was so much better than anything else we've had since. So I always mess with him about that on the air, and also it's a unique spot because he was intimately involved in the search process that led the Jets to hire Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, the new GM. Woody Johnson consulted with Mike and Rick Spielman, and they sat in on all the interviews with different candidates and advised Woody on who to hire. So, Tannenbaum's a huge Aaron Glenn guy, and he is, rightfully heavily invested in the success or failures of the Jets this year and going forward. So it adds a unique dynamic to our show that, here's a guy that knows the inner workings of the organization, as of the last 6 months. So it's very cool to work with him and kind of get a front office perspective, and then, a super local perspective if you're a fan of the Jets as well.
Jake, always a pleasure, man. You enjoy your work, as well as my good buddy and former coworker here, the great Mike Girapito does. I know he's been on your show a bunch too, and a big Jets fan, is probably as big as you are as well. And you've got some fans here in the 518, and avid listeners to you. One of our loyal guys, Leon, chiming in, a nice get, Mike, hashtag Asman. So that's a good to have you on. So obviously an avid listener there. Jake, listen, keep up the great work, man. And again, follow him on Twitter, at Jake Asman. Does great work covering the New York Jets and more. We'll see how it plays out with the Jets in week 2 and throughout the remainder of the season. But thanks for hopping on my show, Open Mike, and would love to do it again soon, my man. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, Michael. Thanks for the kind words, and really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. All the best. Jake Asman. Good stuff.